wanted to read to you because people, growing up our whole lives, people have always come up to Jesse and I when they find out that you're our father. They come up to us and they share meaningful moments that they had watching Karate Kid growing up, or they tell us how much this character John Kreese means to them and what you represent. I mean, I remember reading a fan letter one time where a young man was saying that his father had died and that you represented this father figure in his life. So to hear that you've contributed to people's lives that way, I mean, it must feel so amazing, so beautiful.
On that note, by the way, I just want to say, on that note with the fan letters, I have seen these fan letters come whether it's to the P.O. box or sometimes the house. I don't know how they get the address, but there are literally thousands of letters. And my dad has literally sat down multiple times throughout the year for hours on end, replying to you guys and writing personal letters, signing autographs, sending them back. If you have sent one, sometimes it's physically impossible for him to reply to you because they are in a stack from around the world. But at some point in life, you will probably get a reply from him. Just in case you're wondering if you sent a letter a few years ago, it may be sent out this year.
Those really mean something to people. I remember...
And you do read them.
You do read them. And then he reads them to us. You read them to us because it's
beautiful.
It's meaningful. And it just shows the humanity that people, I mean, it just shows people's humanity. But those things really mean something to people. I remember around our bar and bat mitzvah, when we were 13, I received one of those autographs from Sarah Michelle Gellar in the mail.
Rachel was absolutely obsessed with Buffy.
Obsessed with Buffy. And it was what that character represented for me was everything. She represented strength. She represented empowerment. She represented facing struggle and overcoming it. And again, that's what these characters represent to people. And I wanted to read you something that someone wrote because I asked, we were actually, a friend of ours had come to Jackson's birthday party here in Tennessee over the summer. And he came up to me and very sweetly just said, I don't think you realize how much your dad means to me. And I said, no, I really don't. Can you share that with me?
Wait, before you read this, because it's so good.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back into his personal backstory a little bit, and because I know some people don't really know you personally, Dad, and obviously this is about all of us, but I think it's important that people really get to know, the history of you leading up to that.
Oh,
text.
So we're gonna go back. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, people. I don't even know if people really know that you grew up in New York. You were a street kid in New York, throwing rocks in windows sometimes, and a little bit of a pain in the ass, right? I mean, you grew up in, I forget, was it Queens or it was in Brooklyn?
Yeah, it was in Brooklyn, and it was, my parents were very conservative, and, they led a very unimaginative life, and I was always, into the films and loved the cowboys and wanted to just, watch Westerns and material, all kinds of material all my life. But yeah, I was pretty much with probably John Kreese would have grown up, a little wild, a little fantasy oriented. And
was it cowboys? Did you play, what was your daily routines of were you out with friends in the streets? Were you on bicycles?
Yeah, I was the
only
child. I was the only child, so I was very spoiled. And my parents were, middle class, and they would buy me a lot of toys, a lot of guns, Daisy air rifles, Fanner 50s.
Like rubber band guns?
Rubber band, everything, every kind of gun that I wanted, because I liked it. It was part of the fantasy. And so we would enact cowboys or army soldiers, or, and I would have massive amounts of soldiers, the small little figures, Knights of the Round Table, army men,
World War II?
Yeah.
Little Native American,
endless
cowboys and Native Americans?
Endless amounts. And I would set them up at night or during an afternoon and let them, in my mind, battle while I was sleeping. And
right.
Then
but that was also on television, too. They would, I forget if that was, during, when you were growing up, I forget, was it cowboy shows that was mostly on television, right?
In the 60s, there were 35 Westerns on primetime television. And that's a lot. That's a lot. 35 of the same genre on television. And I watched them all: Maverick, Sugarfoot, Cheyenne, Bronco, all Colt 45, all of them. And they just were the backbone of your memory as a child of what you wanted to do. Because now when you watch shows like Yellowstone, being a cowboy is an enormous project. I mean, it is like you have to get up so early. The work is so hard.
You mean you don't have a sandwich in your trailer waiting for you, before you go ring the cow?
Yeah,
in?
you don't have a driver.
Your BLT isn't waiting.
It isn't waiting first thing in the morning, and it's fascinating how you look at it. Being someone who loves the West and someone that's really wants to rejuvenate the Western film, but when you look at how hard these people work, and Taylor Sheridan has captured it very well. They really have a tough life. They really are the loners that enjoy, mending fences and riding herd on the cattle and go out there for strays, whether it be horses or cattle, steers themselves. It's tough work. And
but you often have told me that you wish you were born in that time.
Yeah, I do wish I was born, earlier. I think. But life was out in the frontier was
rough.
I mean, you can see all that. And oddly enough, we just watched the other day, 1883, and you can see how tough it was pushing west for people who were part of the frontier movement. It was really hard. It was nothing like what our lives are like now. And we all complain about what our lives are about now for one reason or another. But, moving west was a major occurrence for society, and you were a really strong character if you had your family moving west. Everything you owned was in a little covered wagon.
Because the devil is cross and